Many women reach midlife and feel a strong inner urge to reinvent themselves. As one who's been through it myself and has had many conversations with others about this, I imagine there are many of you tuning into this right now that are thinking a number of things. How do you boldly and brilliantly choose the path that is best for yourself? With all the responsibilities of life, children, life, marriage, career, whatever's going on for you, how do you find me? Or how do I find me, rather? And on the other side, you may be thinking, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. I'm so proud of myself, and high five, yay to you for being in that place. And then there are some of us on the fence, right? Not knowing what the next step is. My friends, I've been in all three places, and I will tell you this: you can do whatever you put your mind to. We talk about it all the time here on Holistically Speaking. You can hug it out with yourself and be kind to your mind. But what happens when what you want for yourself after living your entire life in the public eye and possibly even in the shadows of somebody else's life? That's a possibility too. What happens? Well, that is why I'm so elated to have Deborah Santana joining us today on Holistically Speaking. From being the daughter of a pioneering interracial couple to living a life alongside a music legend, Carlos Santana, only to step into her own spiritual rebirth and embrace courage, resilience, and freedom. How does that sound? Freedom. I remember feeling those words myself. Deborah, it is such a pleasure to have you here on Holistically Speaking to share what it really means to choose yourself, to embrace the fire, and to share so beautifully in your new memoir, which is called Loving the Fire. And I cannot wait to share more about this book and about you. And just thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here and so grateful for our time.
Deborah, this is not your first book. You have so much wisdom that you've shared as an author, as a professional, as someone who has come into your own over the last 20, 30 years. But this book, Loving the Fire, Choosing Me, Finding Freedom, is really your story. And I'm curious, at this point in your life, what made you say, I want to write a memoir?
This is my second memoir in the tradition of Maya Angelou, who I don't even want to say her name with my name, but I love her. I did have the beautiful opportunity to meet her and her give me words of wisdom. But I think that our stories are so important, just as you said earlier. My story in particular, I've had so many different life experiences that I want to be an inspiration, and I want to show other women, other people, and especially other young people that it's never too late to choose yourself, but one must listen to who we are inside. We can't choose ourselves until we know ourselves. So that's really my purpose with this book.
Choose yourself until you know yourself. And I love that you use the word choose and choice. I talk about agency a lot, just in regular conversation, even in the work I do. And I think that's an area that we're hearing more people talk about this day and age, is like choosing self, choosing agency, because that really is what builds resilience in our lives. Where was it in your life and the point in your life where you said, I choose me?
I thought I was always choosing me, but I was also raised in a time when women were supporters. Not every woman, but I had the personality where I wanted to be supportive of the people around me. And I married when I was 22 and eventually had three children. So they were always my priority. And I feel that it is important to know oneself before you can choose yourself. So I've meditated since I was 22. So I have always been on the journey to know myself. Yet, because I was raised in a very Christian environment, I was also raised with a construct of others determining who I should be, either what the Bible said or a minister. And when I was 21, my spouse and I followed a guru from India for 10 years. And that's when my meditation began in earnest on a daily basis. But even the guru was still telling us who we should be. But as I continued with my inner journey and taking workshops and courses and learning Diksha and other modes and of meditation and being close to oneself, I dove deeper and deeper into listening to this eternal spirit that is within.
So meditation is still a very big part of your life.
Daily,
Daily.
daily.
What does that mean to you? What is meditation for Deborah?
Well, after I get my cup of tea, I sit at my altar, which has photographs of my family, and I begin the process of tapping into this heart. I really want to be in my heart center every day. And so I breathe in and breathe out, and I breathe in the peace of the day. I breathe in the potential of the day. I breathe out anything I want to release, and I ask spirit to be my guide. And then I just try to be in silence, which we all know thoughts scoot in and out of the mind. But I sit in that potential silence, and I feel a peace. And then I pray for each member of my family and those I love. And then I pray for our world, which is suffering tremendously. I pray for truth and justice to survive. And then I read some spiritual teachings.
It's beautiful. It's a very personal journey, meditation, spirituality.
Mhm.
And I love when people are open to sharing that, because there are people that are in this world and they're just tapping into that. They're just beginning to align with a deeper part of self, or give themselves agency and choice to try something different, right? Allow yourself to try something new. So it's always beautiful to find people who are open to sharing that journey, you know? So I always appreciate that. So thank you for that. You mentioned that you followed a guru for a number of years. Can we
10.
10 years. What do you mean by follow?
Well, you make a commitment to be a disciple
Mm.
of a guru. So Carlos and I did that. We went to New York and we saw the guru at the United Nations, which was very impressive at the time. And we were asked if we wanted to follow his teachings, and we did. And it was the path of bhakti yoga, which is the path of meditating on the heart. I dove right into it. It was a vegetarian program. You don't imbibe any alcohol or drugs or anything. It was very pure. And I loved being in the community of these souls who were choosing to live in peace and free from the trappings of this world. Especially at that time, it was the early 1970s. There was still the drug culture, and especially in music. So I loved it. He asked me to open a vegetarian restaurant, which I did in San Francisco. So at 21, I opened this vegetarian restaurant, and it was very well received in the community. And I continued to meditate daily. And then we traveled to New York to sit in meditation with other disciples of this guru. Ultimately, though, of course, if you continue to listen to your inner voice, we didn't fit there anymore. We knew that. And too much was being asked of us to not do. Like, we were not allowed to have children.
Mm.
Uh, it was discouraged. And we were at that point in our lives where we've been married 10 years and we wanted to have children. So then we left that and moved on.
Yeah, and that was actually my next question. So I'm glad you brought that up, because we can outgrow people, right? Situations, experiences, relationships.
Always,
Right.
always.
And that's okay. And once in a while, you know, when we are pushed against that resistance or that tension, that's really, in my mind, I think it's the inner voice saying that there's something bigger, and you're at a point where it's an awakening, right?
Yeah,
So was
yes.
that a difficult decision to make, leaving and choosing something different?
It was difficult. And I really look back at that. Someone asked me at a reading the other day, how do you know that you're going to get through this fire when you're going through something? And I said, because you look back at the fires you've gone through. So as I look back now, I see that that was a very difficult decision. And we almost felt like we were escaping because we weren't being encouraged. Oh, yes, go choose your next path. Go go trust yourselves, trust spirit. No, it was you leave here, you're going to fall. So that getting through that fire just showed me that at every point when our contracts are up with what we've been living in. And so we must choose ourselves and believe in that. And there's always going to be some grieving. There's often going to be some sadness. But in order to grow, we must trust the growth is bringing us to the next place. And I really believe in change. I love change. And I know it's also difficult.
And that is a really powerful statement because when you look at things like it's grief and relationships ending is a loss, is grief, and embracing that life does still go on, I think there's a sense of empowerment that comes with that, making that choice, stepping outside of your comfort zone, something that might be extremely comfortable to you for so long, and uncertainty does not feel safe. The thing that I do want to touch on, and it's kind of hard to talk about your story without talking about your marriage to Carlos. I know it's not
Mhm.
central to it, but you brought it up. And so I'd love to know, you're married for 34 years to one of the most influential, famous musicians in history, Carlos Santana, but also being a daughter of a musician, an American R&B and blues guitarist and singer, Saunders King. I mean, you come from a background of being around music and the public eye. So I would say when you moved into a marriage with somebody that was really quite famous, uh, how was it for you to be able to face that next step where you're like, I need to move on. I need to find Deborah.
Well, my mother, Jo Frances King, was the seminal reason in my life that I was not overly enchanted by Carlos's fame. She raised us because she was married to my father, and because of her background, she raised us to know that no one person is more important than another. Fame does not make someone more important in an internal life way. And so, even though there was a lot of special treatment and there was a lot of other people making so much about this person, the children and I knew that he was just another person. And although we respect and honor the gifts that Spirit gave him in terms of his musical talent, we also know that other people are just as talented, and we all have some spark of beauty and purity and genius within us. So, moving into that world wasn't difficult for me. I definitely had to learn how to present myself in the world because I was being looked at a lot. So there was a lot of me that I tampered down. My sister is the exact opposite of me. She thinks it, she says it, and everyone loves her for that. But because of being in that world, I would think a lot of things, but I would not say them because
Mm.
I knew I had to have some composure and some dignity. And yet, part of me learning to trust myself and accept the fact that I can actually be who I am, even if it's messy, even if I say the wrong thing. I think I had this perfectionism before that I hopefully have let go of now.
When we see people just as human beings instead of human doings, I think
Right?
it really sits with us differently. And I'm clearly I haven't been in a relationship or married to a rock star, but I feel very similar. I don't get overwhelmed or starstruck or enamored because I look at a person for the person as much as I would know them, right? So
Yes.
I imagine that has been influential for your children's upbringing as well. Yeah.
Definitely. They are so grounded and they are so compassionate with others. And yet they also know they do still have to protect themselves because a lot of people will try to get to their father through them.
Mm.
But they're such wonderful human beings, and they were raised by our family is just a tremendous family. My parents, Carlos's parents, all of our extended family is just so loving and kind, and we have such a multicultural family. One of my cousins is Japanese, and of course, my half of my family is African American, the other half Irish, English, Scottish. So we have this beautiful blend of humanity within our own construct. And I think that has been so informative for all of us to have oneness. My general philosophy is indigeneity is the core of all life. And when the first time I traveled to Africa, I went to South Africa. We had the pleasure and the honor of attending Archbishop Desmond Tutu's 75th birthday celebration. And we were able to sit at Nelson Mandela's feet on that journey. And being on the soil, when I first landed, our plane touched down in Senegal before we went to South Africa. And as soon as I smelled that air, I knew it was homeland. And I believe that we are all one. As much as people try to separate and say, oh, no, I'm over here, I'm from Italy, or I'm from Chile, or I'm from China. I think I was born into this very multicultural, multi-diverse family so that I would always feel one with everyone.
You've traveled to Africa a number of times, so I could only imagine that these cultures have been extremely influential. And even going so far, you also are a founding donor of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, making that kind of commitment and
Yes.
truly having a pull to the African culture. What is your hope, your mission there?
When I became a founding donor of the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, I felt that I was leaving a legacy for my family, for my children, to know that America is more diverse than a lot of people believe it is, and how much the African American community has contributed not only to the building of this country, but to the artistic, cultural, and scientific resources that we have, and to build that into history. One of the reasons I wanted to write about my family, my ancestors, in the beginning of this memoir was because so much is being taken out of history books. So much is not being taught in school now because of the weirdness of the administration to want to turn back the clock on what is true. So I wanted my story, just one little story, to talk about my ancestry and how my African American ancestors came into Louisiana and what they did, and my Irish, English, Scottish ancestors, what they did, and the beautiful, simple poetry of my maternal grandfather. I wanted to show, just to give your story and other people can relate and they can see that, oh, yes, we're all a part of this together.
I love that you mentioned the poetry because I
Mm.
love poetry. And looking through your book, which, by the way, my friends, if you haven't picked it up, and for those watching on YouTube, I'm showing the book, Loving the Fire, Choosing Me, Finding Freedom, now available. I'll have it in the HIListically Speaking book Nook library, so you can pick it up there, and also in the notes of the podcast. So there'll be links to that. You have beautiful writings in here that are not just your own. So it seems like legacy is really a part of this book.
Yes, absolutely. I try to give examples of who has influenced me. I took the chance in this memoir to include my own poetry, and also you don't have the final copy, but the final version has my collages
Oh, wow.
on the end papers,
Okay.
and and that's my family. Those are my
Beautiful.
ancestors. I made this collage 2 years ago in a program with a friend of mine, Cynthia Tom, who teaches collage work and ancestral work and healing. And I was able to, that's another perk of self-publishing, add my own artwork to this book and add my poems. And I love that. I'm not a trained artist. I didn't go to art school. I have done a lot of writing workshops and I have honed my writing to a certain skill. But the freedom to create and then share, that takes a confidence that comes from being in rooms with people who honor you. And so I really want to encourage other people too. I mean, some people say, oh, I would never write, I'm not good enough. No, it's a practice. It's a training. It's something, and I know you know this from your own life. Everything is a training. I mean, I got my master's degree when I was in my 50s. So it's never too late to learn something new. It's never too late to express yourself and invite others into your circle of creativity.
I felt that. I felt like you were talking directly to me as well because we had a beautiful conversation, my friends, before we even pressed record. And as many people know who tune into this show, I'm in the process of writing a book too. So I always find such inspiration and absolute beautiful wisdom that come from the guests on this show. It's like I always say that Holistically Speaking is a master class, and it's not only for those tuning in, but me too. So I hear your
Mhm.
call, I hear your message. I love that you're sharing pieces of you, but pieces of your legacy here, which I imagine is a something as a grandmother now, right? You're thinking this is legacy, your legacy
Yeah.
as well. When you think about writing, and again, you don't have to be a professional poet or collage artist or anything like that. Would you consider what that experience was for you? Is it therapy in a way?
I don't really consider it therapy. I consider my daily journal writing, that is more of a therapeutic exercise. But no, writing is really setting an intention. You always have to find a way in. I have to find a way in. What do I want to say and how do I get there? And so that's something that I edit over and over and over again. And this particular memoir has had many iterations. There's so much that I took out that is not in it of my life experiences because I needed to shape the book a certain way. So there's a lot of grit and hard work and late nights to form it. It's not just journal writing, and it's definitely not therapeutic because I always try to make my writing have a certain poetic tone. So that takes some shaping and some kind of molding like clay.
Another artistic talent that you could potentially embrace too. Something that I learned about you is that you are very devoted to being of service, supporting women and young women, girls who are from marginalized communities. And I'm curious what causes or projects are really meaningful to you. In addition to being the founder of the the African American Museum at the Smithsonian, you do have your own nonprofit. What is most meaningful to Deborah?
The name of my nonprofit is Do a Little, and that comes from something Archbishop Tutu said: do your little bit of good wherever you are. It's those little bits put together that will overwhelm our world. So I started my nonprofit in 2008, and I support women and girls in the areas of health, education, and happiness.
Mhm.
And yet I also support young men too. But my primary focus is women, and as you said, marginalized communities. So some of the organizations I support center on domestic violence and funding and helping survivors of that.
Mm.
And I support the Daraja Academy in Kenya, which I first visited in 2010 when there were just 26 students, and now there are 317, I think. And I try to find organizations and stick with organizations that are growing and have lovely management or leadership. And then I try to mentor young women so that they will take chances on their own lives and that they will find what they love. So there's a group in Oakland called Cinnamon Girls that I've also been supporting probably for 20 years. And it's young women of color, and they take trips that they wouldn't normally take. They're high achieving women, yet don't always have the resources to do everything that they want to do. And I think that it's really important for me. I was raised in a home that believed that we should support each other. And I always believe that nonprofit work, if done with ease and grace, not with constant badgering and trying to raise funds. But if done with ease and grace, the nonprofit world is a beautiful place. So I've had all these opportunities to work with other women and other groups that are supporting people in ways that they would not be able to access.
I'm curious about loving the fire. I know there is a poem in here by the same name.
Mhm.
Can
Mhm.
you can you share more about what that it means to love the fire?
Well, when we have challenges that come into our lives, and especially large challenges, I equated my leaving my marriage to walking through fire because when I left, I was on my own, and my mom had just passed away about a year before, and she had always been my strongest supporter, encourager, and resource for help and wholeness. And so I did feel that I was walking through this fire by myself. My dad had passed away 7 years earlier. So I felt that I was walking through these flames that were licking at my life. And yet, as I walked through them, and because of course I have been through other fires, not quite as significant as this one, I knew I would get through if I just kept moving. And what surprised me about this fire was that at the end of the initial leaving, I had this beautiful experience of witnessing my own new sprouts growing green and having the forest rebirth itself and being so much more vibrant, because that's what happens after a forest fire. Forest comes back stronger than ever. And I had that experience. So that's why I named my book Loving the Fire. And I also really know for a fact that people stop in the middle and sometimes go back because of the intensity of the flames. And I want to encourage people, trust yourself, keep moving, trust your intention, wake up each morning and tell yourself that what a great job you're doing, and breathe in the peace of leaving a situation that was no longer intended for you.
Yeah, no longer serving you. Sometimes
Yeah,
you have to crowd things out that no longer serve you to make room for that which does, that you might not
absolutely.
even know exists yet. You talk about the walking through the fire. It's such a great analogy because I remember just recently, actually, I saw a movie called Rebuilding, and it was about a farmer in Colorado, maybe, huge wildfire, wiped his entire ancestral farm out, like generational farm. And it was so moving to me to watch this movie without giving away the spoiler. But the fact that it just leveled the entire community and how to rebuild after something like that. But you notice the sprouts through the ground. You notice that even in the biggest of wildfires, there will be the roots are grounded. You're not
Mm-hmm.
killing the roots, right?
Right.
So it's being grounded, it's having strong roots, it's possibly meeting new community because now the roots might grow a little differently, and being open to the possibility of change. So love that. You also have a workbook that people can get if they sign up for your emails. So we're going to share that as well. Yeah.
Great. So,
Yeah. Would love
yes.
people to be able to, so it almost makes this like a companion guide to the book, Loving the Fire by Deborah Santana. Such a beautiful book. And again, we're going to share everything in the notes of the podcast episode. And it's on the HIListically Speaking book nook. I would love to play a little game with you in the time that we have. I love doing this
Okay.
on HIListically Speaking. If you have an extra moment, I have a game that I call the brain candy game. And basically, I've been writing down, you might see me looking over to the side, writing down words that Deborah has said. And I'm going to throw those words out to you. And I would love for you to come back with just one word that comes to mind, like word association. You want to play?
Me?
Yeah. Well, let's
Absolutely.
do
Of
it.
course.
Okay, perfect. All right, here we go. Music,
Waves.
grief,
Eternal.
intention,
Power.
oneness,
Breath.
healing.
Always available. Sorry, that's 2 words.
It's okay. Don't apologize for what comes to mind. I just want you to say what you feel. Legacy,
My family.
choice.
Important. Or I was going to say importante.
Oh, love that. Grace,
Water.
and another element, fire,
Healing.
healing. Yeah. Walk through the fire. There's always healing on the other side. Beautiful. Love that. It's always fun to play that game. I love to see what guests come up with. And, you know, you're so used to saying these words over and over. I'm sure you're
Yes.
used to saying the loving the fire, talking about the fire. Everything that you said has become so much a part of who you are, right? But when have you ever broken down the words to just give each one some kind of meaning? So that was beautiful.
Yes.
You know what? I'll throw another
Thank
one out there because this is
Okay.
something you mentioned. Do a little.
Philanthropy.
Yeah. Do you think that's important? Not just because you do it, but or as a
I don't
person?
really like the word philanthropy because I think it's a little bit makes one seem elevated,
Mm,
and that's really not my intention. I guess giving and caring for others is very important to me.
yeah.
And my mom was like that. Oh my gosh, my youngest daughter, Angelica, is like that. She will not walk by anyone who is needy without giving them something, sharing. My son keeps bottles of water in the back of his car so that if he's driving down the street and someone is in need and they put their hand out, he hands them a bottle of water so they won't be thirsty. I think it's my daughter, my middle daughter, Stella, it's born in us. I mean, she really supports, she's a mom and she supports other moms. And I just think it's something that when you can learn that as you're growing up, then we have community. We have this sacred way of being in the world. It's like a culture of those who are going to care for each other. And there's a part of me that remembers some of the hardest times, like even if you go back to 9/11,
Mm.
even if you go back, or even as recently as the fires that happened here in Los Angeles last winter. I have chills just thinking about it. How community comes together and cares for one another is the point of my giving, because I want to be in those circles. I want to be in love circles where we're caring for one another. And I want to also be in a circle where we're always looking at the big picture. It's not about me, it's about the bigger life situation.
So I would think a better word for that, listening to you, is altruistic. I love
That's
that
true.
word because
Yeah.
that's doing for the well-being of another, and
Yes.
also
Yes.
without the need to be given credit, you know. And there's a
Yeah.
beautiful Japanese word for that, and my brother shares it often, and it's intoku, and that means doing things without needing credit.
Yes.
And isn't that
Yes.
really, I mean, it's really what it's all about, right? So
Absolutely.
not
Yes.
not that
Believe the
philanthropy is bad, but I think we think like with you, I think philanthropy, I feel like there's a cause, there's an overarching, you know, a board of directors. There is some
right, right.
monetary, but you know, currency is more than just cash, and currency is time spent giving, giving, like the giver's gain, you know. And
Yes. Yes.
so I think altruism is what you've taught your children.
Yes. Yes. I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, I see it. I can totally see it. One thing I would love to ask you, so a big part of holistically speaking and just where I come from is the framework of hug it out. Hug it out means to embrace yourself, to be kind to your mind, right? And it's an acronym for humor, understanding, and gratitude is part of our
Mm-hmm.
healing that we do in our everyday life. And
Mm-hmm.
what I would love to know from you, Deborah, is of those three, and maybe it's all three, which one of those resonate with you the most that you feel is important to bring into your everyday? Is it a little humor? Is it understanding yourself? Or is it self gratitude?
I don't really think about myself like that every day.
I
I think
know
about
we need to.
what I have done. I definitely have to, I start with being centered in my soul's essence and self recognition of my soul, though. You know, it's a
Yeah.
bigger self, right?
Mhm.
I have my small self, but I have my bigger self that floats out into this universe with power and wisdom. And so I love that hug it out. I
Thank you.
really love that. And I also think that I want my small self or my own self to be in complete and total union and community with other selves. And that to me is the richness of life.
So, to me, what I'm hearing is
Hmm.
the self understanding, truth to self, who you are, how you're showing up in the world. And
Yes.
I had a feeling you were going to go there. I just felt it. Yeah, just listening to you and getting to know you in this short amount of time, and gratitude too. But I feel like we rarely think about self. And you seem like you've done so much work on truly
Mhm.
embodying who you are, that the understanding and that big you is just like the cup that's holding everything. Which also you looks like a cup, doesn't it? So there you go.
It does.
Now I'm thinking of
It
a new
does. And
idea.
the grace, you mentioned grace
Yeah.
earlier. And I think that one of the things I try to do every day, I have challenges. I get uptight. I am a human being. And I have this nature that automatically runs back to peace or
Mhm.
tries to find peace again. So release is a really big thing for me. And I had some challenges last week. And so this morning I was listening to this beautiful meditation. And it was like, release all of that because it doesn't belong with you,
Mm.
right? So release is a big part of me hugging it out, releasing others, releasing experiences, and trusting that today is going to bring more goodness, maybe even some miracles, and bathe all of that in gratitude. So I love that you said that about hugging it out. That's really special.
Thank you. And I'm totally resonating with this release because it really is surrender, you know?
Hmm.
Learning to
Hmm.
surrender, letting go of our agenda, being open to the possibilities of whatever's coming our way, you know? Um,
Hmm.
that's a big part of it. So I'm so glad you align with that. Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to get validated every once in a while too. Right.
Absolutely. You do the work and you offer
Yeah,
it, and the beauty of that is we're receiving it.
absolutely.
So, yeah, we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And you can acknowledge that for you.
Yes. Take received.
Yay.
So on that note, well, can you share what are some final words that you would like to share with holistically speaking, our audience, those who are tuning in, what would you like them to know?
I want people to know, and I say this whenever anyone asks me that question, everyone is here for a purpose. And I pray that people find their purpose because that gives you not only validity, but it gives you joy and it feeds you daily. If I get up, I am never going to be one who, we used to have that saying, eat bonbons, and sit on a chaise lounge and be fed bonbons or something. I am always going to be working. And I really feel that that's my purpose. My purpose is to continue to grow and to continue to know more of who I am, because I'm always changing also, but then also to meet other people and thrive in a community. And so my purpose is really to serve others and to continue to grow and to hope that other people find their purpose in life.
I feel it. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing time and sharing your time rather, and just making this part of your day. I can't imagine that there's going to be so many people that resonate with this conversation. And thank you for your gift and your fire. Thank you for your fire.
Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful time together.
You can grab Deborah's book, Loving the Fire, Choosing Me, Finding Freedom, by checking out the notes of this episode or going right to the HIListically Speaking Book Nook Library. You will find it there. Don't forget to connect with Deborah too, because she has a workbook that goes along with this book, and it's a win-win. I shared all of that in the notes of this podcast. And I loved what Deborah shared about how she hugs it out with herself. What does that mean to you? If you want to take your healing journey to the next level, join me for one of my upcoming events to learn how to hug it out with your nervous system and be kind to your mind. I shared more on that in the podcast notes as well. Music for HIListically Speaking is brought to you by my friend Lipbone Redding. And viewers and listeners like you, this show would not be possible. I am so grateful that you continue to share your space, your time, your journey with me here. But most importantly, I'm so proud of you for embracing your journey, for change. Even when there's fire, just remember to keep going. And know that I love you, I believe in you, and I'm sending hugs your way. Be well.